Let's all talk about STEM news. Let's all talk about STEM news. Let's all talk about STEM news because STEM is so great. Yeah! Oh my god, wasn't that so cool? I got to be Han Solo and Loki was Chewbacca! Oh my god! Special thanks to Rob Cabrera over at Creative Squirrels who did the title card for me. It looks awesome. Thank you so much. And now for the real reason I've gathered you all here today. For those of you just joining us, I'm Steph, and this is what happened this week in STEM. On Wednesday, NASA released more juicy details about its Asteroid Redirect mission, or ARM. This mission is considered to be a critical stepping stone on NASA's path to putting people on Mars. Now, in around the 2020 timeframe, NASA will launch its ARM spacecraft towards a near-Earth asteroid that has been pre-chosen. Once it reaches the asteroid, the spacecraft will deploy its robotic arms, which will then wrap around a boulder on the asteroid's surface, give it a big squeezy friendship hug, and then haul it back to orbit around the moon. This entire endeavor should take about 6 years. Once the asteroid has been placed in a stable orbit near the moon, NASA will send astronauts to the asteroid on the Orion spacecraft, which you may have heard of. Once there, the astronauts will spend 25-ish days perusing the asteroid and collecting samples. Now, why is this mission so important? Well, for starters, it'll serve as a really great testbed for technologies and capabilities that could be used in future deep space missions. For example, the spacecraft will likely use what's called a solar electric propulsion system. And you guessed it, it runs on solar power. Now, as we've discussed previously, there's a big trade-off between speed and efficiency when it comes to propulsion. And this is a pretty efficient propulsion system, so yeah, it's a little bit slower. But it requires a lot less propellant, which means it's cheaper. This will also allow scientists to test out new trajectory and navigation technologies that they will probably use in future deep space missions. And the spacesuits that the astronauts will be wearing? Well, those will probably be brand new spacesuits specifically designed for this kind of mission. And on top of all that, this will serve as a huge stepping stone in Orion's development. Besides new technologies, this will also provide a great opportunity to test out planetary defense techniques.
Because let's face it, people, Bruce Willis won't be around to save us all forever.
Now, the particular technique that NASA will probably try out is what's called a gravity tractor. This technique relies on the gravitational attraction forces between two objects, in this case the spacecraft and the asteroid. By inserting itself into a particular kind of orbit, the spacecraft will be able to manipulate the asteroid's motion without even actually physically touching it. This could be helpful when an incoming asteroid threatens Earth and you can just gently push it away. Push it. Now, on top of super cool sciencey stuff and research, there's also some commercial opportunities for mining on asteroids. This mission may help determine if this is even feasible. As of right now, NASA has identified over 12,000 near-Earth objects, a vast majority of which are over 1 kilometer in size. This presents a lot of opportunities for commercial mining, so we'll see how that goes. Now, we won't know which asteroid NASA has selected until about the 2019 timeframe. They've already got a list going, and they expect it to grow by a couple of candidates every year up until the mission launches. NASA has also kind of reached out to the public sector for help with identifying potential candidates. Recently, at South by Southwest, NASA announced that it would be releasing a software application to the public that will allow amateur astronomers to get in on the asteroid hunt. Now, moving on from space to amphibians in the least smooth transition possible, a new frog discovery has been made, which sounds like something pretty much right out of a Harry Potter novel, except it's not chocolate, which is, always disappointing. Picture it. You and your spouse are perusing the Ecuadorian rainforest in search of new species. As you do. Suddenly, you come across this teeny tiny little frog that's no bigger than a marble. You've never seen anything quite like this before. He's got spikes all over him. He looks like a little punk rocker out of the 1990s with his little spikes that listens to Blink-182 and takes no crap from the man. Excited at the prospect of a new discovery, you pop him into a paper cup because that's dignified and you haul him back to your house to be analyzed in the morning. The following morning, you leap out of bed, eager to examine your new discovery. You gently dump the little guy out onto a sheet of paper to have his picture taken, only to discover that that is not the frog that you saw last night. This one is smooth and looks like a lot of frogs, and did you grab the wrong one? Pop! Heartbroken, you pop the little guy back into his cup and add a little bit of moss, because that makes plastic cups more hospitable. You leave the room and return moments later, checking back in on your little buddy, only to discover that the spikes are back. Exactly what happened to a husband and wife team out of Cleveland, Ohio.
In just over 3 minutes, this little guy can go from spiky, punk rocker looking frog to smooth, suave, stereotypical looking frog.
Now, despite the fact that they discovered this guy in 2009, there's still a lot we don't know about him. It's assumed that this little guy changes his skin texture in order to allow for camouflage based on what surface he's sitting on. But researchers really don't know how he does it. Now this discovery has created a lot of work and some problems for scientists. They'll be going back to the rainforest to do the usual. They'll be recording behavior, life cycles, the whole skin texture changing thingy, and estimating populations. However, there's a huge problem that exists because scientists have based a lot of their identification of new species on appearance. So if a lot of different frogs have this ability, scientists may have identified some of these species twice based on whatever state the frog was in when they observed it. Now in this genus alone, there are 470 different species of frog, and since this guy's discovery, scientists have already discovered one other species that has the same ability. But identifying more species with this trait will be helpful for scientists in analyzing why the trait came to be. Do all these different species of frog have a common ancestor that have this trait? Or was it an adaptation that developed over time for just a couple of different species? Who knows, but scientists are gonna have to hop to find out more about this guy. That was lame, that wasn't even funny. I'm so sorry, my apologies. Moving on from frogs to a significantly less popular amphibian thing.
Now, I'm sure you all fondly remember Jar Jar Binks and the Gungans, but what we'll be focusing on for this story is the plasma shield that they used to fight off the droid army in the Phantom Menace.
Earlier this week, Boeing was awarded a patent for a, quote, method and system for shockwave attenuation via an electromagnetic arc. Alright, Boeing, calm it down on the tech speak. We nerds really know what you mean.
It's a force field.
So how exactly does it work? Well, the concept uses a sensor to detect explosions. It can detect the time and the direction from which the explosion is coming from. Once an explosion is detected, the sensor triggers a laser which heats up the air or water around whatever the sensor is mounted on. This creates a plasma shield.
Now, the plasma shield will be denser than normal air, and the plasma's temperature and density will help deflect and absorb the shock waves.
Now, there are some engineering challenges with this project. For instance, not all explosions are created equal. There's a large range of size and magnitude of explosions. The initial thought is that when the system detects an explosion, it'll consult a database that has different explosion profiles and adjust itself according to whatever explosion profile is detected. Now, there are a lot of skeptical people because this concept hasn't actually been tested yet. But if this concept is successful, it has numerous applications in the military right now. It could protect Humvees from IEDs, submarines from underwater explosions, or depending on how scalable it is, it might even be able to protect individual soldiers from blasts. Either way, we look forward to seeing what Boeing comes up with. Now, could somebody please start developing a warp drive for me? Spaceflight, I need it. And this week, everybody got a little bit of spaceflight. Yesterday afternoon, astronaut Scott Kelly and cosmonauts Gennady Padalka and Mikhail Kornienko left Earth bound for the ISS and for the history books. Kelly and Kornienko are about to spend a year on the International Space Station. Now, a typical mission lasts about 6 months. Now, by doubling the mission duration, researchers will be able to analyze the long-term effects zero gravity has on the human body. Now, while this information is critical for future deep space missions, it also has some medical applications here on Earth. This information could be useful in developing recovery plans for patients that have been bedridden for long periods of time. Additionally, the information could be helpful in monitoring people that have immune system deficiencies and can't react well to diseases. A long duration spent in zero gravity can have numerous impacts on the human body. For example, it can impact eye shape, affect bone density, and lead to muscular atrophy.
Over the next year, researchers will study everything from Scott's sleeping patterns and exercise routines to his immune system response and the effects of stress.
Now, as with all good experiments, it's important to have a control or baseline to compare your experiment measurements to.
Enter Mark Kelly, Scott Kelly's identical twin brother, who also happens to be a retired astronaut. While Scott is in space, Mark will be subjected to comparative genetic studies. They'll take blood samples, analyze him psychologically, and do physical tests.
Tons of records are being broken on this mission. After Scott Kelly completes his mission, he will break the record for the most cumulative days in space of any American. Adding the 342 days that he's about to spend in space onto all the rest of his career, you get a whopping 522 days, which absolutely shatters the previous record. In addition, Kelly and Kornienko will set the record for the longest single mission on board the International Space Station. Now, don't think that Padalka isn't getting on this action. While he is only spending 6 months on the station this time around, if you add that up to the rest of his incredibly impressive career, you get the record for the most cumulative days of any human ever spent in space. And that is amazing. So gentlemen, we look forward to seeing you back here on Earth in 2016. Best of luck! So that's it for this week in STEM, guys. If you liked the video, go ahead and give it a big ol' honkin' thumbs up. And if you think the stuff that I was talking about was pretty interesting, I do it pretty regularly, so go ahead and subscribe to the channel. So now that I'm done traveling, we'll be going back to the regular schedule here, and you'll see a new video on Wednesday and a new TWISTEM next Saturday. Don't forget, if you guys find any really cool STEM news stories throughout the week, feel free to tweet them at me at @StephEvs43 on Twitter using the hashtag TWISTEM, and I might cover it in next week's video. Also, I'm trying to come up with different topics to cover on my Topic Talk segment, which sometimes airs on Wednesdays. So if you guys have a STEM topic that you've been dying to know more about, go ahead and tweet that at me as well and use the hashtag Topic Talk. Also, I'm going to include the information down below for the super awesome and really nice artist that did my title card. He's so cool, and I can't thank you enough, Rob. This is amazing. So go ahead and check out any of his pages. I'll link them down in the description below. And that's it, guys. Go forth and have a wonderful and safe weekend, and I will see you on Wednesday. And now for the real reason I've gathered you all here today. I'm gonna kill that kid. There's a kid with a whistle. You have to hear that. That's gotta be a thing. Like, the camera can pick it up. Control your child! No bark! Don't you do it. Orbit around the moon. NASA will spend. They won't spend astronauts. They'll send them, but they won't spend them. I don't even know. An astronaut is not a currency. No bark! Stop yelling, small child. Nobody cares. Loki! Don't bark. We're not going to have a screaming match with a child that is outdoors. No! Not fed up, fuzzball! Future deep space missions. That'll look like the little old man with the shopping bags. Maintain eye contact. Scientists to try out new trajectory. There's a spider on my ceiling. There's spiders! And you dump the little sucker out onto the... I shouldn't say sucker because it sounds like something else. Nailed it! Nailed it! Nailed it! Nailed it! Nailed it! Nailed it!